Okay, so this is 7.4 again. It's called complex fractions. And they definitely look complex. They look very, very, very scary when you first see them. Okay, so this is 7.4. Now you'll want to have done, this is the third day. Okay, so this is the third day on 7.4. So you definitely want to have done the first and the second day of 7.4 and the only day of 7.3 so that you could really understand what's going on. Okay, so these look quite stressful. So let me show you one. Okay, and then you'll see what I mean. Okay, so let's see. I want to see a good one. Oh, okay, that one's pretty good. That one's too complicated. Okay, let's look at this one. Okay, so what we have is so let me show you an example. This is example 1. Let me show you one with nice numbers first. So I'm going to show you one that's kind of half middle school and then half our class. So I'm going to show you a different one to start with. So x over 6 minus x over 3, all divided by x over 5 minus 7 over 10. Okay, so we'll see how this one comes out. So what you notice is you're subtracting fractions, and dividing fractions. So what you really have is 3 questions. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to write it as 3 questions. So how you write it as 3 questions is you change it to an elementary school division. Okay, so this stacked fraction is very stressful. Okay, but if you write it this way, what you have to do with a minus is you have to do negative FM DAF. I'm just going to write it sideways. KFC. And then this one you have to do negative FM DAF. KFC. And then later, what do you do with the division? You flip FFC. So first you do this, then you do this, then you do this. So it's really 3 problems in one. Okay, so 3 problems in one. So let's work on the inside of this first parentheses. Okay, so let me write the steps over here. So negative FM, DAF, KFC. This you do to the top. This you do to the bottom. Okay. So negative. Change it to a plus. Distribute. Okay, F. Factor the bottom. Well, I don't really see how 6 and 3 factor. So I guess that's a no. Match the bottoms. Now I can match the bottoms with my brother, right? The 6 needs a 3 and the 3 needs a 6. Or maybe I can think of a smaller number. So change colors. I'm changing to red. So what's a smaller number? Can I make a 3 into a 6 or a 6 into a 3? So how about if I multiply the top and the bottom by 2? So then I have x over 6 plus, distribute, negative 2x over 6, still in parentheses. I'm ignoring the second one for a moment. I'll put the divided by so I don't forget that. I'm not doing it yet though. And then I did the matching. I did the distributing. I'm now on the adding like terms. So that's a 1 in front of the x. So that's negative 1x divided by, what's the k? What's the k? So keep. And then factor? No. Cancel? No. And that's one whole problem. So you have to do 3 problems. Okay, so as long as you know you're doing 3 problems, it feels better. Okay, so say on this assignment, I would probably give you 6 because 2 is not enough to get good at them. 10 means you're doing 30 questions. So I'm probably going to give you about 6 so that you have a chance when you see these in college. Okay, so let's see. So now I'm working on the second parentheses. Okay, so look at the second parentheses. Minus. I do have a minus, so let me change that to plus and then distribute the negative to the top of the second fraction. Now, how about my denominators? Me and my brother. I could say, hey, he has a 10, I want a 10. And then he could look at me and say, hey, she has a 5, I want a 5. But I think there's something that we could do in the middle. I think I can make my 5 into a 10. How would you make a 5 into a 10 by multiplying? Multiply by 2. Now, this is a coincidence that you multiplied the same thing in the first group, the first parentheses, as the second parentheses. That's just an accident. Okay, so that's not usually the case. So we have 2x there over 10 plus negative 7 over 10. And I'm just working in the second parentheses, so I'm ignoring the other one. Okay. Now I did my matching. I did my distributing. I'm now on my adding. So what's my adding? I add the numerators. Oh, they're not like terms. So if they're not like terms, I just have to put them together at the top. You could also put 2x plus negative 10. K, what's K mean? Keep the denominator. Okay, so I did the second problem. I did the first problem. Now, division is FFC, except there's one word first. What's before the FFC? Flip. So I need to flip FFC. So you always flip the fraction after the division. So this is the one you flip. Now you can only flip the whole fraction. So you can't flip individual fractions. You have to have one fraction here, one fraction. So see this one right here? I have two fractions. You can't flip two fractions. That's illegal. Okay, you can only flip one fraction when you're dividing. Okay, negative x over 6. That's the first parenthesis. And now I have a multiplication problem. So I just flipped. Now I have to do FFC. So factor. Does 2x minus 7 factor? Can you do like 2 and then something? X minus, no. Okay, so this example that the book had doesn't factor, so we can't really factor, so that's a no. Oops, I didn't mean to erase it though. Okay, so that is a no. Second factor is factor other stuff. Nothing really factors. Things cancel though. I can diagonal cancel because the 6 and the 10 are like regular reducing. So what can I cancel these with? What number? 2. So I have, this is 3. This is 5. And then remember when you're multiplying, you multiply straight across. So what's left in the numerator? This is negative 5x. And what's left in the denominator is a 3 and a 2x minus 7. It's okay to leave it like this. Or if you did distribute the denominator, 6x minus 21, that's also allowed. And that's it. So these complex fractions, they look extremely confusing, but if you really break them down into 3 parts, it's manageable. Okay, it's not easy, but it's manageable. Okay, so it's kind of complicated. It's kind of interesting, complicated. So let's try another one. Okay, so we're going to do 3 of these. I think we're going to do 3. So example 2. So let's take a look at another one. Let's see, 1 divided by x squared minus 3 minus 2 over x squared minus 3x. No, that's not the one I want. Minus 4x plus 3. A big divided by sign. 7 over 2x minus 2 plus, let's see, 4x minus 12. What number do I want to put at the top? Let's put a 5. Okay, so let's take a look at this one. Now, when you see it, you're like, oh my gosh. Okay, but remember, Daffy Duck, he's coming to the rescue, right? He's running. running. So he's going to come to the rescue. The idea on this is you do have 3 questions. So if you change it to an elementary school division, and we used that earlier in algebra too. So I call it an elementary school division just to make sure that you know the little division sign that you originally learned. Okay? That's still a division, regardless of what math class we're in. So what you have is you have problem number 1, problem number 2, and then problem number 3. So think of it as 3 problems. Okay, and if you want to get it right, just concentrate on one problem at a time. Okay, one problem at a time. Now, how do I do a minus? Negative FM, DAF, Daffy Ducks coming to the rescue. KFC, bottom 3 I do to the top 2 I do to the bottom. That one over there in the corner won't let me make a T. T. Okay. So T. So what do I do first? The minus. What do you do with the minus? And you might want to pause. Pause it, and then you can check what I did with the first one. So see if you can get the first one right by pausing, and then later checking to see if you get it right. Okay, so plus negative 2. Factor the bottom. This bottom is a dose. This bottom is a check. And I'm picking the same one to factor on a few different of the videos so that the factoring is not what's hanging you up with the problems. Factoring itself is its own problem. If you have trouble with that, send me a text. I'll make a factoring video. Okay, you do have it in your notes, but maybe live again would be helpful. So this is x and x. This is 3 and 1. That's the only way to get 3. I'm trying to get negative 4x. So this is negative 2 on the numerator. 2 parentheses, x and x, 3 and 1, and negative 4x means I need them both to be minus. In this one, it's a difference of squares, so I was making my 2 lines. I usually put them at the top, but they fit at the bottom, 3 times 3. So you put an x in the first parenthesis of each, and you put a 3 in the back parenthesis of each, and then opposite signs, one's a plus, one's a minus. Okay, so I was doing factoring the bottom. I did the minus. So what's next? What's M? M is my brother. Okay, I have a PlayStation 3 and a negative PlayStation 3. Okay, and let's see. He has a negative PlayStation 3 and a negative PlayStation 1. Okay, so I want what my brother has. So I'm yellow. I look at his bottom and say, hey, he has an x minus 1. I want an x minus 1. Top and bottom. The blue looks over at the yellow and says, hey, wait, she has an x plus 3. I want an x plus 3. And that is the finding the common denominator step. So if you thought of what the hardest thing in Algebra 2 would be, finding a common denominator for algebra fractions, which are called rational expressions, that will be the hardest thing. Okay, but really that's the my brother step, is the denominator, the match the denominator. So that's not really a cross out. That's a check mark. Okay, so D, distribute. Oops, I have the erase. Okay, so D, distribute. So distribute what? Distribute the tops, distribute the bottoms. It's funny because I can imagine some of you who I know are often bored by how slow I go in class. And then some of you are like, hey, wait, she goes way too fast in class. So it's so cool to be on YouTube, because on YouTube, the people who think I go too slow, you just speed me up. And the people who think I go too fast, you can just slow me down. It's like the perfect equalizer. Okay. And if you can't watch these videos during our time off school, you can watch them in the summer. You can watch them as a review before you take another math class in college. Or if you're a junior, hopefully you're going to take stats next year. This isn't too much in stats. But it will be important maybe for when you're, summer of your senior year. So I would suggest try to do it now while things are fresh in your mind, but then you can rewatch it again. So that's kind of nice. Okay, so where were we? Sorry. Distribute. We did distribute. A. What's A stand for? So think of what A stands for. A stands for add. I'm going to add my common denominators, my yellow and my blue. So my 1x minus 2x is negative 1x. Negative 1 minus 6 is negative 7. Negative 1 minus 6 is down 1, down 6, which is down 7. If you sometimes have trouble with your integers. Remember, practice them. Don't just use a calculator all the time. At least guess before you use a calculator. K is keep. Keep the denominator. You just write a repeat. Now, how can you keep it if they don't match? So if you forgot to do the matching step, then you can't really do the keeping step. Okay, F. F, the top. Factor the top. I can take out a 1. Try to figure out what's left. That's our oh no negative from factoring by grouping. It changes the sign in the middle. X minus 1, x plus 3, x minus 3. Does anything cancel? No. Now I was all excited because the problem was ending, but I wrote 1, 2, 3. So what does 1, 2, 3 mean? 1, 2, 3 means that's problem number 1. Okay, so that's problem number 1. Then you need to take a deep breath and say, okay, here's my division sign. And now I'm going to do problem number 2. Think of it as 2 problems, 3 problems actually, but the third problem is shorter than the first 2. Think of it as 3 problems and an opportunity to practice, okay? So a lot of this stuff is mindset, okay? So what's your mindset? Is your mindset about learning, trying to remember it for the future? Is your mindset just trying to get it done for today? So try to think of the right mindset. And if it's confusing, you need to think, I can learn this. I can learn this. I just need it at my speed. Okay, either your fast speed or your slow speed or your medium speed. I can learn this. I need to practice it. Okay, so what's our steps? I am adding. So adding is negative FMDAF. Might as well have my list so I could do my checklist. This is for the top. This is for the bottom. Minus. I don't have a minus. This is a plus, so don't do that step. Factor the bottom. What kind of factoring is this? Okay, so I see a GCF. I see a 2, and over here I see a 4. And again, pause me again. Try to do the number 2. And then if you get stuck or you want to just check if you're right, you can keep going in the video and then check. Okay, so I need to distribute the 2 and somehow get 2x minus 2. So that would be an x and a 1. I do need a 1 placeholder. So if I just had 2x and I didn't have another number, then it wouldn't work. 4x minus 3. This is a 7. This is a 5. Okay, what's after my F step? M. Try to do it in another color. The second color is to train your brain that when you put it in the denominator, you also need one in the numerator because you're really multiplying by 1. It's very strange. But if you look over here, I'm going to box it in green. This green over here, you multiplied by x plus 3 over x plus 3. That means you're multiplying by 1. That means you're not really changing it. You're just changing what it looks like. Okay? Okay. So back over here to the right side. I want what my brother has. What do you think? Do you need a whole 4? I don't think I need a whole 4. I think I could change a 2 into a 4 without. How about I just multiply by 2 top and bottom? That'll make it a 4. Okay, I want what my brother has. I have a PlayStation 1. He has a PlayStation 3. So I guess I'm going to need a PlayStation 3. So x minus 3, x minus 3. My blue brother, he looks at me and says, hey, she has a 4, 2 2s. She has an x minus 3. She has an x minus 1. I don't have an x minus 1, so I want an x minus 1, top and bottom. This really is 14, this top. So I'm going to distribute it as a 14. Okay, so that's 14x minus 14 times 3. 12, carry the 1, 3, 4, 42. 42. 4x minus 1, x minus 3. Plus 5x minus 5 divided by 4x minus 3x minus 1. Okay, I have a common denominator. That's exciting. Okay, so I matched, I distributed. Usually I remember to distribute without looking at the chart because I see the parentheses, so it makes me feel like distributing. But actually, distributing is something that sometimes people don't do. And when you don't do it, you end up canceling before you distribute. So see these 2 steps? D is multiple steps before C. So you do have to distribute and not cancel until the end. Sometimes people cancel and then the problem doesn't come out right. Okay, I'm on A. A is add the numerators. I'm going to add the like terms. So that would be 19x. Negative 42, down 5 is down 47. K. K is keep the denominator divided by. Factor. Doesn't factor. Looks like I have 2 divided by. Let me change it to 1 divided by. Actually, I'm going to erase this divided by. Okay, I don't see a factoring. 19 does not go into 47. Okay, so I am going to now do step 3. Step 3 is if you see a division, you flip FFC. The nice thing is you've already FF'd, so mostly you're usually just on C. Okay, so you do have to multiply. So change it to a multiply, and then you are going to flip the second fraction, because that's how you divide fractions. You multiply by the reciprocal of the second fraction. And then you FFC, but I already F'd and I already F'd, so the only thing I have to do is C. So I'm going to erase these parentheses. I don't like those parentheses anymore. So now I'm multiplying, but everything's already factored. So I really only have to C. So what should I see? Make this green. What am I going to see? Do you see anything at the top and the bottom that can cancel? I would say this x minus 1 has a partner over here. This x minus 3 has a partner over here. What do you think about the 7 and the 47? Can you cancel a 7 into a 47? Like chop off the 7s or something? Okay, yeah, that'd be a no, so please don't do that. Okay, over arrow, arrow. What do I have left in the numerator? A negative 1, x plus 7 times 4. Okay, that looks funny. Let me change that. What's negative 1 times 4? Negative 4? X plus 7. Okay. Divided by, what's in the denominator? X plus 3 and 19x minus 47. The end. You could multiply these out like FOIL, but only if the answer choice looked like that. So in my class, you would not do that, and in most classes, you would not do that. Okay, so it's really like you're doing 3 questions in one. It's very odd. Okay, it's very odd. Very interesting, though. Okay, we're going to do one more. And this one has also something in it that people make an error on with something else. So let's take a look at this one. 5 over x plus 4 divided by 1 over x plus 4 plus 2 over x. So they do show this example in the textbook. So this is example 3. Okay, and I made up the other 2 examples. Did I make up all of them? Yeah, I made up the other examples. Okay, so let's see. Did I make up that example? No, I got the first example from the book too, just in another spot. Okay, so I see fractions on top of fractions. That's called a complex fraction. That's when you're going to write it like this. 5 over x plus 4 divided by, you're going to write the other divided by, because when I don't write that divided by, it doesn't make me think of flipping a fraction. The only reason I think of flipping a fraction is when it's written as an elementary divided by. Now, the book has another way of doing this. It has another way of doing a few of these, but you have to find the common denominator first. And in my opinion, that step, the my brother step, I really want to wait. I wait until I get there, and then it makes sense to me. I don't want to find the common denominator as the first step. So personally, I don't do it the other way. I do it with the 2 fraction way. I think it's easier. So I always show you the way I think is easier. Oh, look at the first fraction. What's exciting about the first fraction? There's nothing to do. It's already done. Okay, that's weird. Cool. Second step. So third step is the division. Second step, okay, that is an addition sign. So I need to do negative FM DAF, KFC. Okay, that's for the top. This is for the bottom. Okay, so this is where I want to caution you. Okay, do not write what I'm writing. What some people do when they try to match the denominators is they'll add a 4. Now, there is no rule in fractions that if you have like 1/2, that you are allowed to add 4 on the top and the bottom? 5/6. Is 5/6 the same as 1/2? It's not. So that's not allowed. Okay, so if you remember my M had 3 words. It's my brother, it's multiply, and it's match. It's not add. Okay, so this is highly illegal. So we're going to put a little message here that says illegal to add 4. But it kind of makes sense because I have an x plus 4 and I have an x. So it's like, well, can I just add a 4? So sometimes I'll put a plus 0 here. Okay, so isn't that really just plus 0? So it's its own thing. It's a PlayStation 0. It's an original. Okay, it's an original PlayStation. And then the other one's a PlayStation 4. Okay, so that one's kind of strange. Okay, so maybe I'll write that as the next step. Okay, so 1 over, because I need more space, actually. That's why. Divided by. And then plus 2 over, let me call this x plus 0. So I didn't add 0 to the top and the bottom. I'm just calling it x plus 0. Okay, so this one needs an original PlayStation. So just an x. And then this one over here needs an x plus 4. And the 0 is not really here. That's the only way that I can make them to match. There's actually not another way. Okay, so what do you do after you match the denominators? ID. Oh, and I was doing, I don't know if you noticed that, but I was doing I want what my brother has. Okay, so I was doing I want what my brother has, but it felt like I could just add a 4, but I can't add a 4. And then I didn't do the factoring the denominator. Sometimes I go out of order in my own brain if my brain skips steps. So sometimes my brain skips steps because, like I said, I'm a math teacher. So I try to show you every single step, but sometimes my brain will skip to like step 4. And I realize, wait, I forgot to tell you why steps 1, 2, and 3 weren't steps in this specific problem. Okay, so, and that's what textbooks do. Of course, that's what they do. They already know how to do the problem. So we just forget sometimes that you guys are just learning. Okay, and when you learn, if I show you all the details, then later on, maybe you can skip steps. But definitely, if I skip steps, it's going to be confusing too. Okay, so what was I on? I was on match the denominators. Check. D, distribute. Distribute what? Okay, so distribute that. So that's x over x. I'm not going to distribute the bottom, though. Okay, don't distribute the bottom because you're going to have to refactor it. So don't do that. Okay, and then this one, I do distribute the tops. Okay, and if you're ever in doubt, look at the list. The list tells you how to do everything. The denominator, don't distribute the denominator. We're only distributing the numerators. I'm on A, add the numerator. Okay, so there's a 1 in front of that x. So add the numerators is 3x plus 8 divided by k. Keep the denominator, x plus 4. Divided by. Okay, this was just a repeat. This one, I think I'm going to leave the parentheses off this step. There you go. So what do I do now? How do you do a division? So this is your third problem, except we didn't have to do problem number 1 because the first parenthesis was already done for us. So remember, division is flip and then FFC. If it's times, it's just FFC. So which one do you flip? You flip the second one. So I flip the second fraction. The first fraction does not flip. Anything after a division sign flip. So if it was like the third fraction that had the division sign in the front, you would flip. You would do that one. So flip, I did that. F, factor. Oh, everything's factored. Factor. Everything's factored. So FF is factor the denominator, factor the numerator. C, cancel. Do you see anything that cancels? Okay, I see something that cancels, the x plus 4s. And then nothing else cancels. You multiply straight across when you're multiplying fractions. 3x plus 8. Those x's look so juicy to cancel, but it's not in the front. Actually, the x at the top is available to cancel, but the x at the bottom is not available to cancel. I'll show you a silly way that somebody came up with. One of the students I used to tutor. Her mom is on Walnut Butt, so it's kind of funny. So sometimes I see her because I see her last name and I think, oh, she's the one who told me this. She went to St. Lucie, so she went to a private school, and she told me her teacher told her this. Okay, So if you have an x minus 6, okay, and whatever you have at the top. So let's say you have 2 at the top. Okay, she said the 6 is unavailable to cancel with the 2 because this x and the 6 are in a relationship. Okay, so the best example of that is when it's a plus. So let me do another one with a plus. Let me change that one to plus. Okay, so if it's a plus, so it's a relationship. So it's like this, x plus 6. So like our couple in 4th period, right? So we have a couple in 4th period. So you can't break them apart. Okay, so the 6 is unavailable. Okay, so the x and the 6, you can cancel them all out, or you can't cancel 1. So you can't cancel the 6. And then I asked her, well, what if it's a minus? And she said, well, it's the same thing. They're in a relationship. I said, okay, well, in this case, they're in like they're mad at each other, I guess. So, but they're still in a relationship. And so the 6 is not available to cancel. Okay, so the 6 can't cancel with the 2. So that's illegal. Okay, I don't know if that helps you. So I would ask her, how do you know those don't cancel? Because usually my students would want to cancel them. They'd be like, oh, cancel those, and then make that a 3. And then she'd say, oh, well, they're a boyfriend-girlfriend pair. I was like, a boyfriend-girlfriend pair? What is a boyfriend-girlfriend pair? So anyway, my old example, I would be like this, and then I would put J plus F because my old boyfriend, his name was Francisco. Anyway, so he was always in my problems. Now he's my best friend, so we'll have a friendship plus. Okay, anyway, that's the end. So the x's don't cancel, because see this x is involved, this 3x, it has like a fancy name, Mary Ann. So Mary Ann plus Bob. So Mary Ann plus Bob, Mary Ann and Bob, they don't cancel. You can't cancel them with the 5x. Okay, so that doesn't work. So you have to leave the answer like that. So sometimes people want to over cancel. And it's very hard to know what you should cancel and what you shouldn't cancel. You could also kind of think of it as heart simplifying, but it's like an upside down heart. So all 3 things would have to have something in common. So like if the 8 were a 15, no, not a 15. This is a bad example, but say you had 6x and in the denominator you had 2x plus 4. You could cancel these. But you wouldn't have gotten to that stage because you would have factored the denominator. And if you factor the denominator, well, then you can separate this. That 6 and the x, they're not in a boyfriend-girlfriend pair because they're not a plus. And they're not in like I'm mad at you, but you're still my boyfriend pair, which is a minus. So then this one would have worked 3x over x plus 2. Or you could have gone from here to there doing like the heart simplifying, but upside down. Or heart simplifying from quadratic formula, but upside down. Anyway, so that's the end of this video on complex fractions. Sorry if you don't like my stories, but I don't know how else to teach. I'm really loving the color coding. Okay, so this color coding, I love OneNote with the color coding. I was writing with another app on an Adobe PDF, which is pretty cool too, but the color coding was a little bit different, so it was a little bit more difficult. So that's why I'm using OneNote back for you guys. So this is complex fractions. Daffy Duck comes to the rescue with our negative FMDAF. So this is our last part of 7.4 with the algebraic. 7.4 also has some graphing, but that's going to be almost impossible to teach you on video. So I'm going to either teach you when we come back, or I'll try to make videos, but it'll have to be a video of me pointing. I have to point to the graphs. I'm not sure if I can make it in a video, but we'll see. We'll see. Anyway, I hope you guys are safe and happy. Hope you're not too bored. Or maybe I hope you're bored enough to do some math. Okay, so do some math. This is material that we learned sort of in that really quick day. So it is good for you to know it. Okay, we did skip chapter 7 and then we're coming back to it. It's kind of important. So I don't want you to skip it altogether. It used to be in Algebra 1. Maybe not these complex fractions, but the rest, the days 1 and 2, were definitely, and 3, were definitely in there. Okay, so I will put an assignment into Google Classroom, and you've got to convince yourself that it's valuable for you to do, okay? Unless something's wrong with your family, and then please take care of your family. That's way more important. Okay, sounds good. Talk to you later. Bye.